Chapter 1. Discovery. Emily Collins lived a seemingly perfect life with her husband John. They had been married for 15 years, lived in a beautiful house, in a peaceful neighborhood, and with a picture of happiness to everyone who knew them. John was a successful lawyer, and Emily, an accomplished artist, often showcased her work in local galleries. Emily loved her life. She loved waking up to the sound of birds singing outside their bedroom window, the smell of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the house as she worked on her latest painting, and the quiet evenings spent with John, watching their favorite shows or sharing a bottle of wine. Her friends often commented on how lucky she was to have such a wonderful husband and a beautiful home. Yet, beneath the surface of their idyllic life, Emily had sensed something was amiss. John had grown increasingly distant over the past few years. He worked late more often, took unexpected business trips, and seemed preoccupied even when he was at home. Emily chalked it up to the demands of his job and tried to be supportive, never suspecting the real reason for his behavior. It was a rainy afternoon, and Emily was alone in the house. John was supposedly away on another business trip. She decided to take advantage of the quiet time to do some cleaning in his study, a room she rarely entered. It was cluttered with papers, books, and personal items reflecting John's busy lifestyle. As she organized his desk, she stumbled upon an unfamiliar envelope hidden beneath a stack of papers. Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened it. What she found inside shattered her world. Explicit photos and love letters from multiple women, spanning several years. Her hands trembled as she read through the letters, each one more incriminating than the last. It was clear that John had been unfaithful to her repeatedly. The photos showed him in intimate moments with different women, some in hotels, others in places she recognized as close to home. The letters were passionate, detailing secret meetings and declarations of love. Emily felt a mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. How could he do this to her? How long had he been deceiving her? She thought about all the times he had come home late, smelling of unfamiliar perfume, and the business trips that seemed to come out of nowhere. She realized now that she had ignored the signs, blinded by her trust in him. Unable to contain her emotions, she called her best friend, Sarah. "Sarah, I need to talk to you. Can you come over?" Emily's voice shook as she spoke. "I'll be right there," Sarah replied without hesitation. Emily sat in the living room, clutching the envelope, tears streaming down her face. She felt a deep sense of betrayal, like a knife had been plunged into her heart. She tried to understand why John had done this to her, but there were no answers, only pain. When Sarah arrived, she found Emily in a state of shock, sitting on the couch with the envelope beside her. Sarah sat down next to her, taking her hand. "What happened, Emily? What's wrong?" Emily handed Sarah the envelope. "I found this in John's study. He's been cheating on me for years with multiple women." Sarah opened the envelope and began to read the letters, her expression shifting from disbelief to anger. "I can't believe this," she said, shaking her head. "How could he do this to you after all these years?" Emily buried her face in her hands. "I don't know. I thought we were happy. I thought he loved me." Sarah hugged her tightly. "You don't deserve this, Emily. No one does." Emily pulled away, wiping her tears. "I need to confront him. I need answers." Sarah nodded. "You do. But you also need to protect yourself. Don't let him manipulate you." Emily felt a surge of determination. She had been blindsided by John's betrayal, but she wouldn't let him break her. She would confront him, get the answers she needed, and take back control of her life. Chapter 2. Confrontation. John returned home the next day, oblivious to the storm awaiting him. Emily had spent the night thinking about what she would say, how she would confront him. She felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach, but knew she had to face him. She had rehearsed the confrontation in her mind, playing out different scenarios, but the reality was far more daunting. "John, we need to talk," Emily said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. John looked surprised, but followed her into the living room. He sensed the tension, but seemed unsure of its source. "What's wrong, Emily?" Emily took a deep breath and held up the envelope. Her hand shook slightly, but she steadied herself, meeting his gaze with determination. "I found these. Explain yourself." John's face paled as he saw the evidence of his infidelity. His eyes darted from the envelope to Emily's face, calculating his response. "Emily, I can explain." "Explain?" Emily interrupted, her voice rising with a mix of hurt and anger. "Explain how you've been cheating on me for years, how you've betrayed our marriage vows over and over again." John's demeanor shifted from guilt to anger. He straightened, his expression hardening. "You had no right to go through my things." "I had every right," Emily shot back, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm your wife. I trusted you, and you broke that trust." John's eyes narrowed, and his lips curled into a sneer. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? Well, you're not. I know about your past, Emily, the things you've tried to keep hidden. If you try to ruin me, I'll make sure everyone knows." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you talking about?" John leaned in closer, his voice low and menacing. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Your secrets, your past mistakes. If you push me, I'll make sure everyone knows." Emily stood there, her mind reeling. She had worked hard to leave her past behind, to build a new life with John. And now he was using it against her. She realized she was trapped. John had the power to destroy her reputation, her career, and everything she had worked for. "You wouldn't," she whispered, a mixture of fear and anger in her voice. The memories of her past, the mistakes she had made, flashed before her eyes. She had been young and reckless, but she had changed. She had built a new life, one she was proud of. "Try me," John replied with a cruel smile. He seemed to relish the power he held over her, his eyes gleaming with a perverse satisfaction. Emily felt a surge of defiance. She couldn't let John intimidate her, couldn't let him use her past against her. She had to find a way out of this nightmare. She had to take back control of her life. Her mind raced as she considered her options. She needed a plan, a way to protect herself and expose John for the monster he truly was. "Fine," she said, her voice steady. "If that's how you want to play it, I'll fight back. I won't let you destroy me." John's smile faded, replaced by a look of uncertainty. He had expected Emily to crumble, to beg for mercy. But she stood before him, her eyes filled with determination. For the first time, he seemed unsure of himself. Emily turned and walked away, her heart pounding. She had taken the first step in reclaiming her power, but the battle was far from over. She needed to gather her strength, to prepare for the fight ahead. She would confront John again, but on her terms, and she would make sure he paid for his betrayal. As she retreated to her art studio, the one place where she felt truly herself, Emily allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face. The weight of John's betrayal and the threat of his blackmail pressed heavily on her. But she knew she couldn't give up. She would find a way to outsmart him, to protect herself and her future. Emily's resolve hardened as she wiped away her tears. She would turn her pain into strength, her anger into action. She would gather evidence, plan meticulously, and execute her revenge with precision. John had underestimated her, and that would be his downfall. The confrontation had ignited a fire within her, a determination to reclaim her life and her dignity. Emily rose to her feet, her mind already formulating a plan. She would fight back, and she would win. And when she was done, John would regret ever thinking he could control her. Chapter 3. Gathering Evidence. Over the next few days, Emily's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. She felt betrayed, angry, and trapped. John's threat loomed over her like a dark cloud, but she knew she couldn't let him win. She had to find a way to turn the tables, to reclaim her life and her dignity. Emily confided in Sarah, who had always been her rock. They met at a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes and ears. Sarah listened intently, her expression shifting from shock to determination, as Emily recounted John's infidelity and his subsequent blackmail threat. "We need to gather evidence," Sarah said firmly, her eyes narrowing with resolve. "If John thinks he can blackmail you, we need to make sure he has no leverage. We need to build a case against him." Emily nodded, feeling a spark of hope igniting within her. Together, they devised a plan. Emily would start by gathering as much information as she could about John's affair and any other activities that could discredit him. She would need to be discreet, but with Sarah's help and support, she felt more confident. That evening, Emily pretended everything was normal. She cooked dinner, engaged in small talk with John, and even managed to smile. Her performance was convincing enough that John suspected nothing. Beneath the surface, however, she was already plotting her revenge. The next morning, while John was in the shower, Emily slipped into his office. Her heart raced as she approached his laptop, feeling a pang of guilt but quickly pushing it aside. John had betrayed her first, and she needed to protect herself. She copied the contents of his laptop onto a USB drive, careful not to leave any traces of her actions. Over the next few weeks, Emily continued to gather evidence. She followed John discreetly, documenting his movements with photos and recording conversations whenever she could. She became adept at blending into the background, observing without being noticed. Her art of surveillance became almost second nature. One evening, as Emily reviewed the evidence she had gathered, she discovered something alarming. Among the photos and recorded conversations, she found evidence of John's involvement in shady business deals. Suspicious meetings, unaccounted-for financial transactions, and confidential documents hinted at illegal activities. Emily's heart pounded as she realized the potential gravity of what she had uncovered. She immediately called Sarah, who came over to help her review the findings. "This is worse than we thought," Emily said, spreading the documents across the kitchen table. "John isn't just cheating on me. He's involved in something criminal." Sarah's eyes widened as she scanned the documents. "This could ruin his career and reputation. We need to be careful but thorough. We can't just expose his infidelity. We need to bring everything to light." Emily nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. She hired a private investigator to dig deeper into John's activities. The investigator, a seasoned professional named Mark, was discreet and thorough. He uncovered more evidence of John's illicit dealings, confirming Emily's worst fears. One evening, as Emily and Sarah reviewed the new evidence with Mark, they discovered a crucial piece of information. John had been funneling money through offshore accounts, hiding his illegal earnings and evading taxes. The evidence was damning and comprehensive. "This is it," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming with determination. We have enough to bring him down, but we need to be strategic about how we use this information. Emily nodded, feeling a sense of empowerment for the first time in weeks. She felt the weight of the evidence in her hands, a tangible symbol of her fight for justice. They decided to compile all the evidence into a detailed report, which they would submit to the authorities and the media simultaneously. The goal was to ensure that John couldn't escape the consequences of his actions. The plan was set into motion. Emily continued to gather more evidence to strengthen their case, all while maintaining the facade of normalcy at home. She felt a renewed sense of purpose and control, driven by the need to protect herself and hold John accountable for his betrayal and deceit. Emily and Sarah worked tirelessly, refining their strategy and ensuring every detail was accounted for. The more they uncovered, the angrier Emily became. She realized that John's betrayals went far beyond infidelity. He had built a web of lies that threatened to ensnare her if she didn't act decisively. Finally, after weeks of meticulous planning and gathering evidence, they were ready. Emily felt a surge of empowerment as she prepared to execute their plan. She knew it wouldn't be easy, and the road ahead was fraught with risks, but she was determined to see it through. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt in control. She had turned her pain and anger into a weapon, one that she would use to take back her life and bring John to justice. As she looked at the compiled evidence, she knew that it was time to put their plan into action. The moment of reckoning had arrived, and Emily was ready to face it head-on. Chapter 4. The Plan. Emily and Sarah meticulously planned every detail of their trap. They decided to expose John at a charity gala he was organizing, an event where he would be surrounded by colleagues, friends, and influential people. This public setting would maximize the impact and ensure that John couldn't escape the consequences of his actions. Emily felt a mix of nerves and excitement as the night of the gala approached. She dressed carefully, choosing a stunning red gown that made her feel powerful and in control. Sarah was by her side, a reassuring presence, and a reminder of the strength they had built together. As they arrived at the gala, Emily's heart raced. The venue was lavishly decorated, with elegant chandeliers casting a warm glow over the guests. She spotted John across the room, charming as ever, mingling with attendees. He had no idea what was coming. The first part of their plan involved planting a hidden camera in John's office at the gala venue. Sarah, posing as a catering staff member, slipped into his office and placed the camera in a discreet corner, ensuring it had a clear view of the desk and surrounding area. They needed footage of John in a compromising situation to bolster their case. Next, Emily needed to confront John in a way that would draw attention. She knew it had to be public enough to create a scene, but controlled enough to ensure they could steer the narrative. As she mingled with the guests, she kept an eye on John, waiting for the right moment. Finally, she saw her opportunity. John was standing near a group of influential guests, laughing and sharing stories. Emily took a deep breath and approached him. "John, we need to talk," Emily said, her voice loud enough to attract attention. John turned, his smile fading into a mask of irritation. "Emily, this isn't the place." "Really? Because I think it's the perfect place," Emily replied, her voice cold and unwavering. "Let's go to your office." Guests nearby exchanged curious glances, and a hush fell over the immediate area as Emily led John to his office. Sarah followed discreetly, ensuring they had witnesses, but not too many, that they couldn't control the situation. Once inside, Emily didn't hold back. "I know about Rachel. and I know about your shady business deals." John's face turned red with anger and a hint of fear. "You have no proof," Emily smiled, pulling out her phone. "Actually, I do, and it's all recorded." John lunged for her phone, but Emily was quicker. She played the recordings, John's voice filling the room as he discussed his affairs and illegal deals. His face drained of color as he realized the extent of Emily's evidence. "You're finished, John," Emily said, her voice steady. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows who you really are." John's initial shock turned into a desperate attempt to regain control. "You won't get away with this, Emily. I'll ruin you too." Emily stood her ground, feeling the weight of Sarah's support behind her. "No, John, you've already lost. The evidence is already with my lawyer and several media outlets. By the time this gala is over, your career and reputation will be in tatters." As John's face contorted with rage, Sarah stepped forward. "It's over, John. You can't bully or blackmail your way out of this. The truth is out." John's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, but there was none. The door opened, and several gala attendees, drawn by the commotion, stood there, witnessing the confrontation. Among them were prominent figures in the community, including a couple of journalists who had caught wind of the tension and decided to investigate. Emily took a step closer to John, her voice low but firm. "This is your reckoning. You've hurt me, betrayed me, and tried to ruin my life. But you underestimated my strength and the support I have. Your lies and deceit end tonight." John's shoulders slumped as the reality of his situation sank in. He had been outmaneuvered, and there was no way to reclaim his former position. Emily watched him, a mixture of relief and sadness washing over her. She had loved this man once, but now she saw him for what he truly was, a coward and a liar. The next few minutes were a blur as security was called and John was escorted out of the venue. The buzz of whispers and gasps filled the air as the guests processed what had just happened. Emily felt a sense of closure and empowerment. She had faced her fears and taken back control of her life. Sarah hugged her tightly. "You did it, Emily. It's over." Emily nodded, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Thank you, Sarah. I couldn't have done this without you." As they left the gala, Emily felt a newfound sense of freedom. She had confronted her past, exposed the truth, and reclaimed her future. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she knew she was strong enough to face whatever challenges came her way. And with Sarah by her side, she knew she would never be alone. Chapter 5. The Downfall. The next few days were a whirlwind of chaos and media frenzy. Emily and Sarah released the recordings to several major news outlets, ensuring the evidence was disseminated widely and quickly. The reaction was immediate and explosive. The scandal dominated headlines, and John Collins, once a respected lawyer, was now the subject of intense public scrutiny and condemnation. The phone in Emily's home didn't stop ringing as reporters sought comments, and colleagues of John reached out in disbelief and shock. Emily had anticipated some fallout, but the sheer scale of the response was overwhelming. She watched the news coverage, seeing John's face splashed across screens with headlines detailing his infidelities and illegal activities. Every newscast and article painted a damning picture of a man who had built his career on lies and deceit. The first solo exhibition she organized after the scandal was a huge success. The gallery was filled with vibrant colors and dynamic compositions, each piece telling a story of resilience and renewal. Attendees were captivated by the raw emotion and depth of her work, and many complimented her on how her art had evolved. It was a gratifying acknowledgement of her recovery and growth. In addition to her artistic resurgence, Emily reconnected with old friends she had drifted away from during her troubled marriage. These friendships were a comforting reminder of her past self, and they provided her with a sense of stability and joy. She cherished the laughter and warmth of their gatherings, feeling grateful for the support and understanding they offered. As Emily's heart healed, she found herself open to new experiences, including dating. She approached it with caution, choosing to take things slow and be mindful of her own needs and boundaries. Her first few dates were filled with nervous excitement and genuine curiosity. She enjoyed getting to know new people, but more importantly, she took the time to understand what she truly wanted in a relationship. Each experience was a step towards rediscovering her sense of self and what she desired for her future. One evening, as Emily stood in front of a blank canvas in her studio, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The studio was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, filtering through the large windows. The space was now a reflection of her journey, bright, open, and full of potential. She gazed at the canvas, feeling a deep connection to the moment. It was as if she was standing at the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one that she was ready to embrace fully. The chaos and pain of the past were behind her, and she was ready to create something beautiful from the experiences she had endured. With a deep breath, Emily picked up her brush. Her hand moved with confidence and purpose, each stroke an expression of her newfound strength and hope. The colors flowed seamlessly onto the canvas, blending and intertwining to form a vibrant and dynamic composition. As she worked, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment and joy, knowing that she was creating something that was entirely her own. As the painting took shape, Emily realized that she was no longer defined by her past or her struggles. She had survived the storm and emerged stronger, and now she was ready to thrive. The future stretched out before her, a blank canvas full of possibilities. With every stroke of her brush, she was not only creating art, but also shaping her own destiny. Emily smiled as she stepped back from the canvas, admiring the work she had created. It was a beautiful testament to her journey, a vivid representation of her resilience and growth. The painting was a celebration of her ability to overcome adversity and embrace the beauty of life. The future was hers to paint, and Emily was determined to make it as vibrant and fulfilling as the art she created. She had faced her darkest fears and come out stronger, and now she was ready to embrace all the possibilities that lay ahead. With each new day, she would continue to build on the foundation she had created, living a life filled with hope, creativity, and joy. As she cleaned her brushes and prepared to leave the studio, Emily felt a deep sense of contentment. She had survived, and now she was ready to thrive. The future was wide open, and she was eager to see where her newfound strength and freedom would take her. Chapter 7. Building Strength. Emily spent the next several months dedicated to transforming herself and her surroundings, embracing a journey of profound self-reinvention. The turbulence of her past had left deep marks, but it also ignited a fierce determination within her to emerge stronger and more vibrant than ever. Artistic flourish. Her immersion in art became both a therapeutic outlet and a source of immense joy. The studio, once a place of lingering shadows from her past, now radiated with energy and creativity. Emily's paintings evolved into powerful expressions of her newfound strength and emotional depth. The canvases, previously marked by controlled brushstrokes and carefully chosen colors, now exploded with bold, vivid hues and dynamic forms. The intensity of her work drew attention from the art community. Critics and collectors alike were captivated by the raw emotion and authenticity that characterized her new pieces. Emily's exhibitions began to attract larger audiences, and her reputation as an artist grew. Her paintings, reflecting her personal journey and resilience, resonated deeply with viewers, leading to increased sales and critical acclaim. Therapeutic healing. Alongside her artistic progress, Emily embarked on a path of psychological healing. She began seeing Dr. Carter, a therapist whose compassionate and insightful approach provided a safe space for Emily to explore and process her trauma. Each session with Dr. Carter became a crucial part of Emily's recovery, offering her a chance to confront and work through the lingering effects of John's betrayal. Dr. Carter's office was a comforting sanctuary, a cozy space adorned with soft lighting, comfortable chairs, and shelves lined with books on psychology and personal growth. During their sessions, Dr. Carter listened attentively as Emily recounted her experiences, offering thoughtful reflections and guidance. "You've been through a lot, Emily," Dr. Carter said during one particularly pivotal session, "but you're stronger than you realize. You've taken control of your life, and that's a powerful thing." These words resonated deeply with Emily. Dr. Carter's validation helped her to recognize the strength she had developed through her ordeal. She began to see herself not as a victim of her circumstances, but as someone who had faced adversity head-on and emerged with renewed purpose and self-assurance. Building confidence. In addition to therapy, Emily focused on rebuilding her self-esteem and sense of self-worth. She engaged in activities that reaffirmed her value and capabilities. She attended workshops and art retreats where she connected with other artists and explored new techniques. These experiences not only enhanced her artistic skills, but also broadened her social circle, providing her with a supportive network of peers. Emily also made time for self-care and personal growth. She started practicing yoga and meditation, which helped her center herself and maintain emotional balance. Regular exercise and mindfulness practices contributed to her overall well-being, allowing her to approach each day with a renewed sense of vitality and positivity. Embracing new opportunities. As Emily's confidence grew, she began to embrace new opportunities with an open heart. She took on ambitious projects, such as curating her own art show and collaborating with other artists on community initiatives. Each new endeavor was a testament to her resilience and her commitment to living a fulfilling life. Emily's interactions with others became marked by a sense of ease and authenticity. She reconnected with friends and made new ones, forging relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. Her experiences had deepened her empathy and compassion, enriching her connections with those around her. Looking forward. One evening, as Emily stood in her studio, she looked around at the vibrant paintings that adorned the walls. Each piece represented a chapter of her journey, from the darkness of betrayal to the light of her newfound strength. The studio, once a place of healing, had become a symbol of her growth and transformation. With a sense of fulfillment, Emily began work on a new series of paintings that explored themes of renewal and hope. The canvases were filled with sweeping strokes and radiant colors, reflecting her belief in the beauty of new beginnings. She poured her heart into each piece, knowing that her art was a powerful representation of her journey. As she worked, Emily felt a profound sense of peace and accomplishment. The challenges of the past had shaped her, but they no longer defined her. She had taken control of her life and emerged stronger, and now she was ready to embrace the future with optimism and courage. Emily's journey was far from over, but she faced it with a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. The lessons she had learned and the strength she had gained would guide her as she continued to build a life filled with creativity, love, and personal fulfillment.